Hand placement and gestures are another body language skill that are vital to your presentations. In this video, we're going to talk about some gestures and what we can do with our hands. There are three areas that we're going to talk about. The first, where can we put our hands? Well, a lot of times we get nervous and we start touching or we start tapping. We have what's called an itch or a tic, and we want to kind of eliminate that. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to keep your hands in front of you. Keep them in front and keep them together. Now they can be together by touching your fingertips, crossing your hands, however you want to cross them or keep them in front of you. Another important aspect is that you keep them at your navel, which is your belly button. So there's an area here that would be a good area to keep your hands, somewhere above the belt and below your chest. So if my hands are down here, it's kind of cramping. I look a bit awkward. Everything's really tight. But if I bring them up, my shoulders go back, I fix my posture. And if I'm too high, well, that's just an unnatural state for our hands to be. So keep them in front of you if you don't know what to do with them. Also, remember to not use a tic as much. So when they're in front, try not to tap your fingers, right? Or move them too much. Try to keep them still. And if you can't, you might want to cross them as such. Next, use your hands or gestures to describe things. When we're talking about objects, we like to talk about how big they are or how small something is. We can even put it in our hands. It's so tiny. So you can describe the size of an object. You could also describe the shape. We built this square window, right? You can draw shapes with your hands. You can also use it for distance. We traveled such a far, far distance that it took us almost 10 hours to get there. Finally, you can use your hands to describe emotion, right? Oh, I was so happy, right? Notice my hands come up in a happy state. When you're happy, you're excited, right? I was so angry at something. I squeezed and made a fist out of my hands, right? Or I slammed it down. I was so mad. So there are various expressions. I know those are just excited and angry, but you could use shocked, right? Your hands go up. There are various expressions that match your hand gestures. Finally, directing. Directing attention, directing focus. So if you're using some sort of visual aid, whether it's a slide presentation or a whiteboard presentation, you can use your hand, usually in an open format, to kind of point up to something or to point at something. If it's an object, sometimes you can use your finger, but if it's a person or the audience, such as yourself, you want to use an open hand, palm up. Also, in many countries, hand gestures can mean different things. It's very important that you research if your gesture is appropriate or inappropriate in the culture that you're going to. For example, in the United States, when you're pointing at somebody, that shows that you're angry or that you're directing fault to somebody. So that's why we use an open hand and we stay back, right? You all can do the same thing. Questioning. Sometimes you want your audience to interact with you. So you might pose a question. And to identify that you're posing the question, other than stating it, you might raise your hand. Right? Who here has taken a presentation class before now? Great. So these are just a few examples of how we can use gestures and our hands to enhance and engage our audiences.